Apex trades here, hope you're well. So I've not been on for a while, but I thought it was important to come and do a bit of an update, some analysis on where we are with things. I pretty much called what I think is probably the local top, at least for this period of trading. Ultimately, I believe BTC will always continue to move up, but certainly for this current move to the upside here, I don't think for this phase that went up here, I think it's probably that was the local top. And you can see that. I'll post my reasons for thinking that up in the top corner there so you can see it. But why was that the case? I mean, look, this whole area here was really the complete support and resistance flip. What was previously acting as support is now acting as resistance, and so it was a really difficult area to break through. And specifically on its first attempt, when it comes up to this height, I just felt usually these things have to spend a lot of time, like here got rejected a number of times before it flipped up there. So I was not convinced that its first attempt was going to break through and we were going to continue to move up. And so that was the thing that cemented that I think we were going to go down. But what happens if you've missed the opportunity, or in your head you thought, well, I've missed out on this, so I don't know when the next time to get in. So we're going to get into all of that and figure out where's good places to get in, and maybe even where we can expect to move on. So let's just try and get into it. Let's do the 1 hour. No, let's do the 2 hour actually. So firstly, right, what we want to do, I think it's important to note on this specific area here, this is really the entire upper price action. And so you always want to look at your volume profile. I think that may be overlooked in most instances, but you can look and say, well, if you take your volume profile, the value area high and the value area low, which is effectively 70% of the most traded volume, and the point of control, which is the red in the middle, is where most traded volume across the entire fixed range occurs. You can see each time the value area low piece here, let me just take that magnet tool off, has really provided a lot of resistance. And so this is support. This is the point that really we need to break through and really establish another, let's say, flip into resistance when it breaks through that support line there. So I think that's going to be the next challenge. But you can clearly see here right now, if I zoom in again, let's take this off the page 1 second. So let's just remove, sorry if you can hear anything in the background, it is what it is. Some work's going on over my neighbour's house, I think. You can see here what looks to be, in my opinion, a fairly nice Elliott wave. You can see here, I mean, we don't know where fifth's going to, might be a little bit too overzealous there, but based on where we are, I mean, I look at that and I think, well, it's an impulsive move. What was the retracement on that? If I go from down there to there, well, you can see it perfectly hit that 50%, and so it's a nice enough retracement from the initial move down. And then of course we've had the impulsive move down. Now it still might not be the end of this impulsive move, and actually this third wave could come lower. Realistically, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, possibly that might be the third wave, and this could be the start of a fourth wave moving up. And we'll talk about where's potentially some good areas to focus on in terms of being able to get another entry to the downside, because I still feel personally that we are heading down to maybe even as low as 25, 22 in terms of this move before we start maybe heading back up again. So again, just flipping to our fixed range volume, as I say, what might be a nice idea, and I think something I'm going to be keeping my eyes on, is if the third wave hasn't yet finished and we do continue to the downside, what I'd be looking for is, do we come back up here, reclaim this value area low, or do we use it as a rejection for the fifth wave, which structurally would make sense. But the thing that's really important, and I think you really got to get your head into and understand, is how volume is important in relation to any moves. So for example, if you can see here across this entire move, let me just make that a little bit bigger, you can see volume has continued to just drop. It hasn't really started to go up, and that's a telling sign. So you can see here on this move to the upside, I think that was this candle here, this big candle, that was a big move to the upside. So you can clearly tell at this point, okay, the momentum is with the bulls. And of course what happened after that is the move continued to the upside. And so if you look at the move to the downside here, that's on relatively small volume, and then even this bigger move to the downside here. Again, still on relatively small volume. So what does that actually mean? Well, you can look at it in two ways. I mean, the first way you can think, well, actually, there's a idea, let's just say, in the background that the bulls are cognizant of the fact that actually we need price to come back down. We've been on such a tear to the upside. And so what's important is if price just continues to go one way and one way only, then the people who've missed out on value don't get the chance, because realistically you're not gonna buy when price is at its highest, and you're not gonna sell when price is at its lowest. You wouldn't do that. It's contrary to what good trading ethics is going to be about. And so as a bull, if you want price to continue to go up, you also need it to come back to relieve some of that pressure that's building up from that constant move to the upside. It's just the way trading works. You can't continue to move to the upside indefinitely. You need pullbacks. And so even if you take that huge move, this move here, this has been one big consolidatory move from this huge move to the upside. So you can clearly see, oftentimes whenever you get these moves, you need pullbacks for many reasons, but predominantly even the bulls of this world like to get better value and keep on adding to that position if they've been moving to the upside. So something to be mindful of for sure. Now, where would we look for entries? Let's just try and evaluate and review some of these moves that have occurred, I guess, over the past however long. I mean, let's look at the daily levels. Daily levels are any levels actually, but specifically on higher time frames, whether it's a daily, a weekly, or a monthly level. Think logically about what a level means. It's like, okay, if I move to the daily, you can see these are strong rejected areas at a daily level, right? So right now we're on a daily time frame. You can see these are always areas where, forgetting about the technical side of stuff, something has happened that's made price reverse. And so it should come to no surprise that we're struggling. We come to a daily level. This was the level that spawned that move to the upside. So that move to the upside from that daily level means that you are going to find natural resistance to break through, or support. At the moment it's providing a lot of support, because obviously if you've got your move in here as a long, where's your stops going to be? All here. All the way along here, liquidation levels, all that stuff. So you're going to find this area will be a really tough area to get through, just simply because at the daily level, clearly there was a nice move that moved price to the upside. So that's an important thing to be mindful of. I'm watching the reaction, because again, it's all about volume. If we break through here, high volume, then bears are steadily in control. And then obviously you've got this next level here, which was born out of this one here. However, you could argue that these maybe started to provide some of that stop losses again. So whoever's originally, that's why I don't think this level might be so strong, in my opinion. Having said that, as I'm looking now, you just missed that level there. But again, anyone who's got in here has probably already been stopped out anyway. And so these, for liquidity purposes, are going to be really interesting areas here, and that's what we're going to take a look at in a second as well. So I have some daily levels. Now weekly, again, these are even stronger levels again, because this has happened on a weekly level. And so if we take a look here, let me just get rid of that. Again, you can see this was a weekly level here, but again, we broke through those levels. So again, this may not be such a strong level of support, but there's always that psychological thing about levels, isn't it? No matter what. And so this will still provide, clearly it's provided where the bulls have stepped in here when we've come quite close. And right now it's again, we've worked through at a weekly level, and we're still providing some sort of a resistance here. So we, as I say, levels, think of support and resistance in many different ways. If you take back the technical side of stuff and why, realistically, just think logically, it's like, okay, well, something, it doesn't really matter what, could be some sort of CPI inflation data, could be what the interest rate's been raised to, doesn't really matter, could be fundamental issue, could be just a technical issue or a technical level. But realistically, we know in the past that these have provided some sort of a pivot where it's changed direction. And so because of stop losses, because of high levels of leverage, all of these areas are going to be magnets in terms of either trying to flush people out, stop hunts, call them what you want. So that is true. That is a truism that you've just got to be mindful of. And so whether you think that these areas may provide some level of another pivot is up to you, but ultimately what you've got to remember is, in with that narrative and idea, is things like momentum. I mean, look, on the weekly level, we've been traveling as bullish as we possibly could for some time until we hit this point here. And again, this is the point at which I previously determined that we're probably going to hit a local top, again, for the reasons that this is a whole area of support flip resistance and resistance flip report in the past. And so in line with the fact that we'd also topped out at the MFI, which is a momentum indicator for flow of money, think of it like an RSI, then it was an interesting one for me that I thought, okay, well, we're probably at a point now where we're going to start reversing back. And these happen on different time frames. So again, this is the daily level. So at the daily level, again, we're not within that midway point, but again, if you take, let me just use that straight tool here, you can see we are generally heading down, and price is also heading down without any divergence on that, which I think is important. So you can see moving down on a daily MFI, also moving down on the price action as well. What about the 4 hourly? Probably one of my most favored time frames for analysis. Again, you can see from a volume perspective, we are just still heading down with volume. So take that how you want to read it, but the way I see that is, as volume starting to decrease from this bullish move, it takes less price action, i.e. price on the order book, to drop the price lower. So it's like the bulls are stepping away a little bit at this level on the compound effect of the fact that you've got your support, which is now flip resistance at that really key level. And so I just expect further downward momentum. Now that could change. What you've got to be mindful of is if we all of a sudden see a huge big bullish volume candle like that at a specific level, and we'll talk about what that level might look like in a second, that would be a concern for the bears, because obviously money's coming back in. So always think volume, price action go together. You've always got to be thinking, what does it mean? Why is volume dropping off? Here you would say, okay, well actually volume is starting to increase for the bears. Now, for any of our people who like to look at volume spread analysis, what you're looking for is some sort of relationship between, is the length of the candle, and I'm not talking about the wicks, I'm talking about the body. Is the body of the candles representative of the volume size of the candle, of the actual volume sticks? And you'd probably say here, right now, that was a relatively small volume candle, but that was only a relatively small price. Then we had, let me just get rid of some of these so we can be a bit clearer. Then we had this candle here, which was a nice big candle, but again reflected with a bigger move in volume again. Then we had this third candle here, which again, size wise, is pretty similar to where we had here, but again volume is a lot higher again. So that is like, okay, volume is increasing, price action starting to move down, price is being reflected with the volume. Clearly there's a trend happening in terms of where we are here. So it's a good enough idea to start thinking, okay. And then again, we had this candle here, which got a bit of a rejection. We were at a key level of a weekly, but the volume dropped. So you think then, okay, is bulls starting to step in? Obviously that wasn't the case. Price continued to move down. And then again, biggest volume spike of all was this one here, represented with this here. Of course, we had some sort of a reaction from the bulls, but the volume wasn't great. Again, this is why, for me, the narrative is still bearish, because even after this huge washout here, which we're considering as a third wave, the volume that came in on a 4 hour is, in comparison to here, this initial one, which is not a big volume spike, and it's reclaimed the weekly level, let's just say, but we've still got plenty of time to go down on the MFI. Obviously there's still plenty to go on a 4 hour. If we go to the 2 hour, obviously we are quite low on the 2 hour, but these things, when they move, I always state, for me, I put more attention in an oscillator, of a momentum oscillator, when we are not trending. So if we're in a range, then really it's a more powerful tool. If we're not in a range and we're trending, then these can just spike way below. You can get down into your 10s, even 5s, 8s, in some 2s in some instances. I mean, specifically on the shorter time frames, these can really blow out, and these 80 and 20 levels are just not respected. I'm always mindful that I don't pay too much attention to these, but realistically, when these things get to these really breakout levels, this is like 13, you can see here on the side, obviously we get a reaction and we move to the upside. That's why I look past the fact that it's ranging or trending and just focus on price action, because that's really what we're looking at. And when specifically in these markets where we are ranging, where we are trending, I'm more interested in volume and price That's my key indicators, focusing on the key levels. One of the things I like to do a lot of, actually, because if you're a swing trader, one of the things let me just get rid of the weekly levels a second. As a swing trader, one of the things that's really key, and the way I use it, is of course your volume profile, fixed range, and you can map out your high level, your top price action, simply because we know the point of control is really where we like to try to get back to, because that's again where the most trader volume is, where the most areas where people will be getting in and out of trades. But then the value area low and the value area highs, of course, you can see here, acted as a nice pivot point in terms of where we got back to. Right now, you just simply use, whether you want to use the value area low or the point of control. What I tend to do is use either the value area high or the value area low with a relatively tight stop loss, and then get out at the pivot point, because that's a very well tried and tested trading strategy that a lot of people go for. Again here, value area low, depends on what if you've gone crazy with leverage and stuff like that, then you probably would have been stopped out here, but it depends on how you trade. You might trade and then that would have been a nice move to the upside, got out at your value area high. Right now, as I say, we are trading quite close to the value area low. The other thing I think is really, really interesting, not that, this one. So this parallel channel, let me just zip out to the daily. We've really provided a strong area here for some time. This was, I'd probably suggest we can call this, what can we call this? More of a longer fake out. It was more of a liquidity grab, load of excess that came out, and then obviously price kicked back in. But right now, again, we are very, very close to the channel bottom, and so this is why this whole area here is going to be, I didn't like that, just zoom there a bit. You can see this is so we can clearly tell whenever we got a number of data points that are respected, that we have to respect these areas. So next few days are going to be absolutely crucial in my opinion. Let's just go back let's do the 15-minute now. So what am I going to be looking for here? Right, so I think, as I say, this, if we determine that this was move 1, 2, 3 and 4, right, let's go 1, 2, 3. But my opinion is I think 3 has probably got further to go. I just think this is probably going to come down to here, because we could see, and I think 4 will be a retest, right, of the value area low. I think right now we've got much more downward pressure to come. I think 4 will probably act as that retest. But again, what I'm going to be looking for is the volume. Do we get a big spike and increase in volume when we come to this area? So for me, it's not just blindly going in, testing these lows here, because obviously we're going to have, let's see, a lot of liquidity down in these areas here. Let's put my magnitude on. The lowest point, you're probably looking about there. That will be a big liquidity zone, okay? And that will, how do we respond if price comes down to this? So let's say this is the third wave, we clear this here. Third wave comes down, snag that here, and then we move back up to 4. If we don't clear these volume levels here, then it's nothing more. Ideally, actually, if we want the fifth leg to come in, you want volume to be low. Small reaction from the bulls, come up to this value area, low area here, and then we pivot and spike back down again. So that's what my plan is at the moment. It's like, if I'm looking for a short, where do we look at getting back in? I mean, look, potentially coming back up to this point of control here as an entry to get back into a short. I think that would be a very good area to get back into. Stop loss relatively tight, around like 28,200-300, something like that, just to give you a little bit of a buffer. But if you've missed this opportunity here, then you don't want to be diving in right now, because we are starting to get quite close to the bottom here. I'd like to see a small retracement, point of control, and then a continuation of this third wave. Also, I just wanted to make a note of the pivot points, right? Because the pivot points are something I actually think are really powerful. And so on the pivot points, what are we on here? We are only on the weekly, but you can clearly see S2, right, which is the second support level. It's just right by where that liquidity would be, which I think is another reason why, in terms of where our third move could come to, is where I'd be thinking about taking profit. I've also got the volume zones as well, which again are just above. That's around at 26,800, and again, that is where, if we take the entire price history of Bitcoin, it's where the most volume has been traded. I mean, you can see here right now how well we respect these zones. And let me take my magnitude off. You can see here, this was a a perfect magnet for that. And then again, we're using it here purely as a nice place to reverse. I mean, look at that, for a nice move if you'd have got in on there. So the next volume zone is down here at that 26. But of course, what tends to happen is we can get these spikes that pushes down a little bit further and then into more consolidatory areas. So that would be this. So nice little spike like we do here, past and beyond the volume zone, and then obviously we come back into it. So this 26,400 is really where I'd be looking to take profit. So what is the short area I'm looking for? Well, right now, as I say, I'll be looking for nice short position somewhere around here. Stop loss relatively tight. I don't think we need to be too heavy with the stop loss. Maybe go to the pivot point if you want, in terms of just giving yourself some movement, some freedom, and then targeting this 24,500 area would be a nice move in my opinion. So that's the short term one. I do believe that would be a nice trade. I'm not really looking for longs at this moment in time. Yes, you could argue that you will, if that's your narrative. We're currently right at resistance here, but the problem is we need to build some momentum up again, because I think we're a little bit overexposed at the moment and a little bit going too close into that oversold territory. So I would like to see a little bit of a relief coming back in. As I say, we backed it as a nice point of control, sorry, a value area low here that started to see a move to the upside, back into the trading channel. I'd like to come up here, hit the pivot point, get myself a nice move to the downside, and then that's where I'll be holding it to. So maybe take some profits off at this volume zone here. That 26,800 wouldn't be a bad idea. And that's it really. So yeah, hope that's give you some food for thought. I will see you guys in the next one. Peace. What I would say, guys, look, if you can, I'm trying to at least get to 10 likes. Not a big ask, just 10 likes on this. If you're not yet following, help a brother out, start following. But yeah, 10 likes is what I'm going for. If you guys are looking for any ideas on trading, come and join my Discord server. Link is in the description. Of course, if you don't have an exchange that you're trading on yet, then ByBit is who I trade with. I have a top tier referral there, so again, just head over to that link and get yourself on the team. That being said, speak to you guys later, and thank you very much for watching. Bye.